This happened a few weeks ago. I was driving my truck along Interstate 66 late at night, just like I always do. The rain poured down hard, and the road stretched out before me, dark and lonely. I've been a long-haul truck driver for years, so I knew the routine. But that night felt strange. As I drove, I saw something at the side of the road. It was a figure, drenched and waving, looking for help. I felt panic rise in me. I thought about stopping but decided against it. Something didn't feel right. I pressed on, glancing in my rearview mirror. The figure seemed to blur and fade into the dark. In the days that followed, I tried to push it out of my mind. I figured I was tired or imagining things. But then it happened again. I started to catch glimpses of that figure from my side mirror. It felt like it was lurking in the tree line whenever I passed by. My heart raced. It was like something was calling out to me. One night, I stopped at a rest area for coffee. The rain had stopped, but the air felt thick. I glanced outside, and the night felt heavy. I couldn't shake the feeling that the figure was out there, waiting for me. I finished my coffee and headed back to my truck. As I climbed in, I looked down the road. There it was again, standing in the trees, just a bit away. Was it my imagination, or was it really there? I couldn't be sure. Then one evening I was driving home after my shift. The rain poured down again. It was close to midnight. I felt that same creeping dread in my stomach. I approached the stretch of road where I first saw the figure, the air thick around me. Suddenly there it was again. The figure stood by the edge of the road just like before. Its clothes were wet, and I tried to see its face. I couldn't make out any features, just a shadow staring at me. I found my voice, "Are you okay?" But there was no answer. As I drove past, I heard a whisper, "Help me." The words felt like they twisted inside my head. My breath caught in my throat. I looked ahead, focusing on the road, but when I turned back to glance, the figure was gone. The road was empty, just me and the dark woods. I stepped hard on the gas, driving faster than I ever had. Now I can't shake the feeling of being watched. It's like something is lurking, waiting to make its move. I don't know what that figure wanted. Was it real or just my mind playing tricks? I wish I understood, but I don't think I'll be able to forget it. I still drive that road, haunted by what I saw but too scared to stop and find out. I don't think I'll ever know. The next week, I took the same route again. I tried to dismiss my fears, telling myself it was just a coincidence, but as I drove under the heavy clouds, doubt crept back in. I gripped the steering wheel tight, my palms sweaty. Suddenly, my radio cut out. The static filled the truck, making the silence feel heavier. I glanced around, the only light coming from my dashboard. My heart raced. I wasn't alone. I could feel it. The figure loomed in my mind, taunting me. I reached a familiar stretch of road. My stomach knotted as I recalled the whisper from before. The thought of stopping sent chills down my spine. But I couldn't ignore it. I had to know if it was real. I decided to pull into the rest area just ahead. As I stepped out, the air hit me like ice. I should have turned back, but curiosity pushed me. I walked toward where I had seen the figure, the trees looming overhead. Shadows danced in the half-light, the wind rustling branches like whispers. Then I saw something. A glimmer on the ground caught my eye. I knelt down, heart thumping. It was a piece of cloth, torn and dirty, just like what I saw the figure wearing. I held it up, feeling a rush of dread wash over me. That's when I heard it. A sound behind me. My body froze. It was soft at first, the rustling of leaves, but then it grew louder like footsteps. I turned, expecting to see someone, but the night was empty. My mind raced. Was this all a trap? I took a few steps back toward my truck, my breath quickening. Something shifted in the trees. I could barely make out a shape, a dark silhouette hiding among the foliage. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response. I stepped back another few feet, eyes darting around. I needed to leave, but my legs felt heavy, like they were stuck in mud. Then I caught a flash of movement to my right. I looked just in time to see a hand reaching out from the darkness. It was thin, bony, and almost claw-like. It beckoned, twisting in a way that sent a jolt of panic through me. I turned and sprinted back to my truck, adrenaline cutting through the fear. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking. The moment I was inside, I slammed the door shut. I glanced through the window. The forest was quiet again. Nothing was there. But I could feel it. An energy. Something unseen. I revved the engine and took off down the road, needing to get away from that place. But I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was following me still. I drove on, desperate to get home, but the silhouette lingered in my mind. I wondered if this time it would let me go, or if the next encounter would be the last one I'd ever have. The following day I was still shaken. I couldn't concentrate at work, the sight of that hand replaying in my mind. Every little noise felt amplified. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see the figure looming behind me. When I finally got off, driving home felt different. My heart raced as I approached the same stretch of road, the rest area still heavy with dread. I fought the urge to make a detour, but knew I had to confront whatever this was. I wanted answers. As I pulled in, the sun dipped below the horizon, splashing the sky with dark purples and oranges. I parked, breathing in the cool air. Stepping out, I surveyed the area. Everything felt too quiet, like the animals knew something I didn't. I made my way toward the spot where I found the cloth, each step heavy with anticipation. That's when I noticed something else on the ground, a stone. But this wasn't just any stone. It had strange markings on it, almost like letters forming an old script. I picked it up, turning it over in my hands. Before I could examine it closely, the wind picked up, sending a chill through me. I glanced around, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The air shifted, the shadows around me deepening. I heard that same rustling again, this time closer. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the fading light. But the only answer I got was silence. I weighed my options. I could leave, but something compelled me to stay. I studied the stone more carefully. The markings looked almost familiar. Then it hit me. They resembled symbols from that old book I had read about local legends. Legends of spirits that haunted this very area. Then I heard it. Footsteps, unmistakable this time. They weren't in the leaves, they were on the gravel. My heart stopped as I looked up, and there it was, the silhouette. It stood farther back this time, but still within the trees. It seemed more defined, its features partially visible in the twilight. Fear gripped me, but I felt a strange pull. It raised its hand again, just like before. The bony fingers twisted in a beckoning motion. I dropped the stone, watching it tumble away, unwilling to approach but unable to turn back. "Please just tell me what you want," I yelled, breath catching in my throat. The figure straightened and I caught a glimpse of its eyes, dark, hollow, and filled with an unexplainable sorrow. Before I could react, it took a step forward. I turned and ran back to my truck, slamming the door shut again. This time it felt like I was running from more than just a ghost. I was running from a truth I was terrified to face. I sped out of the parking lot, heart pounding, trying to outrun the visions that haunted me. As I drove, the road twisted and turned in front of me, but the feeling of being followed was stronger than ever. I knew it wasn't over. Then everything went dark. The headlights flickered and died, plunging me into a pitch-black abyss. Panic surged. I slammed the steering wheel, but the truck rolled forward silently. The darkness pressed in, heavy and suffocating, and I realized with a chill, I wasn't alone. I sat in darkness, my breath quick and shallow. The silence was deafening and my mind raced. The shadows felt like they were closing in, heavy and thick. I fumbled for my phone, hoping to find some light or a signal, but the screen remained lifeless. Think, I told myself. I was parked on a dark stretch of road at a rest area. What was I supposed to do now? I could hear noises in the distance, rustling, whispering, like voices hiding in the night. I turned on the truck's interior lights. The flickering glow offered little comfort. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the silhouette lurking behind me. There was nothing, just the empty stretch of highway, shrouded in darkness. Then I heard it again, the footsteps. It was closer this time, unmistakably real. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out everything else. I grabbed a flash from the glove compartment, fumbling as I tried to steady my shaking hands. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door and stepped outside. The cold air hit me like a slap, but I pressed on. My eyes scanned the area, searching for any sign of movement. "Show yourself," I called into the night, my voice wavering. I heard a low hum, almost like a whisper. Was I imagining it? The hairs on my arms prickled. Against my better judgment, I moved toward the source, drawn like a moth to a flame. Then I spotted something shiny, just off the edge of the gravel path. Another stone, but this one gleamed like it was alive. I knelt, heart pounding, and picked it up. It glimmered in the light of my flashlight, revealing similar markings to the stone from earlier. But this one felt different. I couldn't shake the feeling that it held some sort of power. I turned it over, examining the symbols. They looked like they were moving, twisting into shapes I couldn't comprehend. That's when I heard it. A voice, clear and haunting. "Leave this place." I jerked back, nearly dropping the stone. The voice was soft, yet it held an authority that cut through my fear. I spun around, looking for the source, but all I saw were shadows dancing under the trees. "Who are you?" I shouted into the darkness. "What do you want?" My pulse thumped in my ears, but I knew I needed to demand answers. The wind picked up, swirling around me as if responding to my questions. Then, from behind a tree, the figure emerged. It was closer than before, the hollow eyes locked onto mine, swirling with emotions I couldn't decipher. "Sorrow carries," it said, voice like soft thunder. "You must unearth the truth, or be consumed." I felt a chill rush over me. The words resonated, stirring something deep within. The urge to flee surged, but the grip of the stone in my hand grounded me. "I can't help you if I don't understand," I replied, feeling more desperate than defiant. The figure raised its hand again, but this time it wasn't beckoning. It was reaching out, palm open, as if offering something unseen. I glanced at the stone, then back at the figure. Suddenly the ground shook beneath me, and I stumbled to keep my balance. I knew I had to decide, run and leave the mystery unsolved, or confront the truth that loomed in front of me. Then, without warning, everything changed. The darkness shattered, and a piercing light enveloped me, pulling me from the shadows. The next thing I knew, I was back in my truck, gripping the steering wheel. My heart raced as the last remnants of the voice echoed in my mind. I blinked, trying to make sense of it all. But the stone lay on the passenger seat, glowing faintly despite the morning sun. I knew this wasn't over. Something was pulling me back. I didn't sleep well that night. Every creak of the house sent my heart racing. Every shadow felt like a threat. The stone remained on my passenger seat, pulsing in and out of my dreams, blurring the lines between reality and something else. Something sinister. Morning finally arrived, but even the bright sun couldn't shake my unease. I grabbed the stone before heading out, careful to tuck it away in my jacket pocket. I needed to know what it meant, and why it was so insistent on involving me. As I drove down the highway, my mind was still spinning with the figure's words. Unearth the truth. What truth? That wasn't just a warning, it was a challenge. I felt the weight of the stone pressing against my side, a constant reminder that this wasn't just any ordinary day. I made my way to the local diner, hoping for some coffee and clarity. The bell above the door chimed as I entered, and the familiar smell of bacon and eggs filled the air. A few patrons glanced my way, their eyes lingering a moment too long. I felt exposed, as if everyone could sense the secret I carried. I slid into a booth and ordered a cup of coffee. While I waited, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The diner was too quiet. The usual chatter seemed muted, overshadowed by an unseen tension. I glanced around, taking in the elderly couple sharing a booth, the trucker in the corner lost in his phone, and the waitress moving swiftly between tables. Then I noticed the man by the window. He stared straight at me, and I could feel his gaze digging into my skin. He looked familiar, though I couldn't place him. Fear gripped my chest, and instinctively I reached into my jacket pocket to feel the stone. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, a shiver ran down my spine. Just then, he stood up and sauntered over. My heart raced as he approached. "You found something, didn't you?" His voice was low but clear, like he knew exactly what had happened. I eyed him warily. "Who are you?" His smile was a mixture of concern and urgency. "Trust me, you don't want to be involved." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. "Why?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Because it'll only lead to more questions. And more dangers," he replied, looking at the stone I still clutched in my pocket. "You've opened something you can't close." Before I could respond, the diner's lights flickered, and a strange humming filled the room. Patrons looked around, confusion clouding their faces. I felt the urge to run, but I was rooted in place. The humming grew louder, vibrating through my bones. "I need to go," I managed to say, but the man grabbed my wrist firmly. "Listen, you need to uncover the truth," he said urgently, "before it's too late." Then, just as quickly as it had started, the humming faded and the lights steadied. I blinked in disbelief, and when I turned back, he was gone. I scanned the diner, but no one had seen him. It was as if he had never been there. I stumbled out of the diner, trying to make sense of what just happened. I felt the stone shift in my pocket, as if urging me back to the shadows. I could no longer ignore the pull. That's when I heard it again. A whisper, floating on the wind. "You must find the truth." As the sun dipped below the horizon, dark clouds gathered, and I realized the choice was no longer mine. I had to confront whatever truth lay ahead, and I had just taken the first step toward whatever awaited me. The road felt different as I drove away from the diner. It was like something had changed in the air. The stone in my pocket seemed heavier, its presence demanding my attention. I glanced in the rearview mirror. I half expected to see the man from the diner, but the road behind me was clear. As I cruised through the quiet countryside, the shadows began to stretch and twist in strange ways. I turned on the radio to drown out the silence, but static crackled through the speakers. That's when I noticed the first oddity, something unusual on the side of the road. A figure stood alone near an old, rusted sign that read, "Beware." I slowed down, my curiosity piqued. The figure appeared to be a woman, dressed in tattered clothes, with a wild look in her eyes. She lifted a hand as if she wanted me to stop. I hesitated, but something in her stare gripped me, drawing me closer. As I pulled over, my heart pounded. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaky. "I know what you're looking for," she said, her voice hoarse but urgent. "The truth, but it comes with a price." "What do you mean?" I asked, suddenly skeptical. She leaned closer to my window, her face half shrouded by the evening shadows. "It's cursed, the stone. It belongs to me," she hissed. My instinct was to drive away, but I felt paralyzed. "No, I found it. I don't know what it is." "Don't play games," she interrupted, her voice rising. It's not just an object, it's a key. And if you don't give it back, you'll wish you had. Before I could respond, she turned and dashed into the trees lining the roadside. I sat in shock, trying to process her words. I wanted to believe it was some trick, some illusion born of fatigue. But the stone in my pocket felt like it was pulsating in response to her warning. I drove on, unsettling thoughts flickering in my mind, when I suddenly caught a glimpse of headlights approaching fast from behind. The vehicle was a dark, menacing pickup truck. The driver came dangerously close, tailgating me, as if they were waiting for me to pull over. Panic surged. I pressed my foot down on the accelerator, but so did they. The truck swerved beside me, its driver leaning out the window. "You have something that doesn't belong to you," he shouted, fury and desperation lacing his voice. His eyes had a wild gleam, matching the intensity I had seen in the woman's eyes. "Just drive," I told myself, gripping the wheel tighter, fear clawing at my stomach. I accelerated, hoping to outrun him. But the truck was relentless, matching my speed. The driver's face twisted in rage. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, he veered off the road, slamming into the trees. I barely had a moment to breathe. A shudder washed over me, a mix of relief and confusion. The truck disappeared into the forest, and I dared to glance back through my mirror, half expecting him to reappear. But nothing came. Just then, an intense chill swept through the car. I felt the stone vibrate again. The air charged like a thunderstorm was waiting to break. And that's when I saw it, something lying on the road ahead. I slowed down, veering towards it. A twisted piece of metal. It looked like it belonged to the truck. I leaned closer, my heart racing again. Written on it was a familiar symbol, the same symbol engraved on the stone. I couldn't breathe. What did it all mean? Why was this happening? And then I heard it again, the whisper. "You must find the truth." Once more, the road seemed to stretch endlessly ahead of me. I knew I couldn't run from this. I needed answers no matter what the cost. But as I drove on, a heavy dread settled in my chest. Whoever that driver was, or that woman, they weren't the last I would see of them. The chill in the air clung to me like a heavy blanket as I pressed on, still haunted by the woman's voice and the driver's fury. I couldn't shake the feeling that something dark was at play, and I couldn't help but wonder what that stone really was. Minutes passed. The road was still, too still. Swaying trees formed an arch overhead, blocking much of the fading light. As night crept in, shadows deepened, lurking just out of sight. I flicked on my headlights, but the beam barely cut through the encroaching darkness. That's when I spotted another figure ahead. My heart raced again, pounding hard against my ribs. It stood in the middle of the road, silhouetted against the setting sun. I struggled to see clearly, my mind racing through possible scenarios. Was it another warning? I couldn't turn back now. I slowed down, gripping the wheel. As I got closer, I saw it was a boy, maybe around 10 or 11, with disheveled hair. In the headlights, he looked lost, scared. He didn't move, just stared at me with wide, empty eyes. "Hey there," I called out, my voice trembling. "Are you all right?" No response. He blinked slowly, the kind of stare that pinched at the edges of my sanity. I parked the car and stepped out. The air felt cooler as I moved toward him. "Where are your parents?" I asked, glancing around. There was no sign of anyone else. "You shouldn't be out here alone." "Help me," he whispered, his voice so faint I almost didn't catch it. "They want it back." "Who?" I asked, my heart racing. I felt the stone in my pocket thrum, as if it had a life of its own. "They'll come," he continued, his gaze fixated somewhere behind me. His expression was distant, lost. "The stone. It calls to them. That's why they're angry." Before I could ask him more, a noise broke through the quiet. A growl from somewhere deep in the trees, a sound unlike anything I'd ever heard. Suddenly, the boy turned and darted into the dark woods without another word. I tried to yell for him, but he was gone, swallowed whole by the shadows. I backed away, panic rising. The growl echoed again, this time closer. I rushed back to my car, fumbling with the door handle as the sound intensified. I jumped in and locked the doors. What had just happened? A boy lost in the woods, warning me about something coming after the stone. It felt unreal, like a nightmare where logic fell apart and fear took the driver's seat. I put the car into gear, my hands shaking. As I accelerated away, glancing back through the mirror, I thought I caught a glimpse of movement in the trees. Did I really see anything? Or was my mind playing tricks on me? Just then the radio flickered back to life. Static buzzed loudly, drowning out my thoughts. And then, amidst the static, I heard a low, chilling voice. "Return what you've taken." The words sent a jolt down my spine. They came from everywhere and nowhere all at once, relentless and demanding. Driven by fear, I pressed down harder on the accelerator. I needed to get away from this place. But as I rounded the next curve in the road, an eerie glow caught my eye on the horizon. I could see something ahead, something unnatural. I narrowed my eyes, adrenaline coursing through me. I needed to find out what it was, but deep down, I feared what I would discover. The glow was growing brighter as I drew closer, casting an unsettling light over the trees. It beckoned me, almost like a moth to a flame, and fear battled with curiosity in my mind. I slowed down, my instincts screaming at me to keep moving, to turn back. But the glow held me captive. I parked the car at the side of the road, heart racing. The sound of the growl lingered in my ears, but the glow was now blinding. I stepped out of the car, the chill of the air biting at my skin. As I moved toward the light, it flickered and pulsed like a heartbeat, sending shivers down my spine on its descent into the unknown. That's when I noticed shadows moving among the trees, faint silhouettes that danced along with the light. My throat tightened. I looked around, but everything felt eerily still. My mind raced with questions. What was drawing me in? And what was lurking just beyond the glow? I walked cautiously toward the light, each step heavy with dread. The woods felt alive, whispering secrets I wasn't meant to hear. Then, just ahead, I saw it. A small circular clearing with what looked like an old stone altar at its center. The altar glinted under the glow, adorned with strange markings. They twisted and turned upon the surface, almost like they were alive. I could see the outline of the boy's figure reflected faintly in the stones. His terrified face haunted me as I recalled our brief encounter. Suddenly the soft growl returned. It came not from the trees this time, but from the altar itself. I froze, panic snaring my breath. I wanted to run back to the car, lock myself inside, but my feet wouldn't move. I was rooted to the ground. The glow pulsed again, stronger, illuminating the woods around me. That's when I saw them, figures emerging from the trees, their shapes dark and twisted. They moved with glacial slowness, their eyes fixed on me with an intensity that paralyzed me with fear. "Return it!" they howled in unison, their voices rising like a chant. "Return what you've taken!" I stumbled back, breathless. The stone in my pocket throbbed in response, urging me to take it out, to reveal it. But terror trapped my hands at my sides. I couldn't let them know I had it. The figures advanced, shadows stretching toward me. I blinked, and my world felt like it was tilting. I knew I had to escape. Just as I turned to flee, I caught sight of the boy again standing by the altar, staring at me with urgency. "Please, it'll destroy you," he shouted, voice cracking with fear. In that moment, I realized he wasn't just a victim. He was warning me against something far worse. What had I stumbled into? The growl turned into a roar, shaking the ground beneath me. I sprinted back to my car, crashing through the underbrush. But the figures were already on the move, closing in. I leaped inside, gasping for air, heart racing like a runaway train. I slammed the door shut, hands trembling on the wheel as I fumbled for the ignition. The growling had turned frantic, a fierce chorus echoing around me as I started the engine. As I drove away, I could still hear the boy's voice ringing in my ears. "Return what you've taken." But I didn't understand what that meant, or if I even wanted to. All I knew was that something was after me, and whatever it wasn't going to stop. Chapter 2. The road ahead blurred as I sped through the thickening woods. Branches clawed at my car, but I didn't dare slow down. The image of the boy's terrified face haunted me, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being followed. Was I losing my mind, or was something really after me? I focused on the highway. Each turn felt like a trap, the growl still echoing in my head. And then, just as I began to breathe easier, my headlights caught something up ahead, a flicker of movement that brought my heart to a standstill. A figure dashed across the road. I hit the brakes hard, tires screeching as I swerved to avoid it. The car fishtailed, but I managed to regain control. I slammed my foot on the pedal, glancing in the rearview mirror. Nothing. The forest closed in behind me, swallowing any signs of what I had just seen. What was that? I whispered to myself. The memory of the figures in the clearing flooded back, their chant still ringing in my head. Return it. But return what? I searched my pockets again for the stone, my fingers brushing against its cold surface. The pounding in my chest reminded me of the danger I was in. I drove on, trying to shake off the tangled thoughts. As the trees thinned and the road opened up, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was almost out of it. But just then, a familiar glow flickered in the distance and my heart sank. It couldn't be. I was miles away from the altar. Yet there it was, glowing against the backdrop of the evening sky. It was impossible. Either my mind was playing tricks on me, or something was drawing me back. I pulled over again and stepped out of the car. The cool breeze felt different now, thick with unease. I had to know what was happening. As I walked toward the light, I noticed the air grew heavy, the sounds of the night muffled, and then I saw it. In the same clearing, but this time surrounded by fog, 3 figures stood by the altar. They were not moving, just watching. I felt a chill traverse my spine. My instinct screamed at me to turn and run. But in the shadows, I saw him. The boy. He was no longer just a figure. He was solid, terrified, and pleading with his eyes. "Help us," he whispered, but the words were drowned out by the distant growl that swelled again, more furious this time. Without warning, the figures turned to face me. Their eyes glowed a sickly green, locking onto mine with a hunger that sent waves of panic through me. I turned on my heel and bolted back to the car, the boy's words echoing in my head. The command, the warning. I fumbled to get inside, heart racing, and locked the door. My breath came out in heavy bursts. I was hyper-aware of every sound, the rustling leaves, the low hiss from the altar, and then the growl, a deafening roar, as if they were demanding retribution. Suddenly there came a sharp knock on the window. I screamed and jumped back, natural instinct taking over. It was the boy again, standing just outside, his eyes fierce with urgency. "I can't help you," I shouted, my voice trembling with fear. "You have to tell me what you want." But the figures were closing in again, moving with unnatural speed toward the car. I knew I had to act fast. Just before the engine roared to life beneath my frantic hands, I caught a glimpse of the stone lying innocently in my lap. What did they mean by return it? And could it really save me? The thought settled like ice in my stomach as I realized I might have no choice. I turned the key in the ignition, the truck roaring to life as I gripped the steering wheel with a desperation I hadn't known before. The shadows were closing in around me, dark tendrils stretching, beckoning. So many questions spiraled around in my head, but one thought stood out above the rest. I needed to get away. As I put the truck in gear, the figures surged forward, their faces now twisted in a rictus of rage, and I slammed down on the gas. The engine screamed in protest, the tires squealing against the gravel as I sped away from the glowing altar and into the night. My heart raced to match the truck's speed, the chaos of the moment engulfing me. But just as I thought I was in the clear, the truck's headlights flickered, momentarily dying, plunging me into darkness. I cursed under my breath, shaking the steering wheel in frustration. When they flickered back to life, I stole a glance at the rearview mirror. In that instant, the figures were closer, almost at the edge of the clearing, but I couldn't afford to look back. I had to focus on the road. I drove on, turning corners with urgency, the landscape blurring past. Then, a familiar pull tugged at my gut, the slow, relentless whisper of, "You must find the truth," reverberating through my mind. It was as though the very stones were calling me back, capturing my attention, permeating every thought. But what was the truth? Was it tied to the stone? I chuckled bitterly, realizing I had no idea what I had stumbled upon, only that I was in deep waters. I took a deep breath as I shook the weight of uncertainty off, but it clung stubbornly to my consciousness. As I drove, I reached for the stone. It warmed against my fingertips, sending a jolt of electricity through me. I turned it over, studying the markings. They began to swirl, the symbols moving like they were alive. "What do you want from me?" I whispered, half in fear, half in desperation. That's when I heard it again, the low growl behind me, growing in intensity. I dared a glance in the rearview mirror. Nothing. But the dread in my stomach deepened. The darkness felt alive, swirling like smoke around me, pulsing with something primordial, something terrifying. Suddenly, something smashed against the side of the truck, jolting me forward. I yelped in surprise, my heart racing. I turned to see a shadowy figure standing beside my window, its bony fingers trailing down the glass. It raised its arm, beckoning me with a slow, deliberate motion. I slammed my foot down on the gas again, speeding down the road like a bat out of hell. The figure lingered in my peripheral vision, the silhouette growing taller, moving unnaturally. I could feel my grip on reality slipping. Then I remembered the boy's warning. They wanted back. The urgency in his voice and the fear in his eyes reinvigorated me. Whatever this was, it wasn't just a figment of my imagination or a trick of the light. It was real, and it wanted something from me. As I navigated through the winding curves of the road, my thoughts raced. Did they want me to return the stone? But would that even save me? Or would it plunge me deeper into whatever dark fate awaited me? The growl became a roar, an echoing scream that split the air around me. Frantically, I turned the wheel, veering off toward a dirt road I hadn't seen before. It was a risk, but it felt like my only way to escape their wrath. The truck bounced and jolted as I navigated the rugged terrain, and for a moment I thought I might have escaped. That hope was crushed when the ominous glow of the altar broke through the trees ahead. My blood ran cold. I had driven straight back to the very place I had tried to flee. The figures stood there waiting, expressions frozen in anticipation. With no other options, I parked beside the altar, cursing my own curiosity. I stepped out of the truck, heart hammering a frantic rhythm in my chest. The stone pulsed in my pocket like a heartbeat, syncing with my own panic. "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite my dread. "What do you want?" As if reacting to my challenge, the figures surged forward, their chants rising in a crescendo that echoed off the trees. I felt the ground beneath me vibrate in response. My feet moved almost of their own accord, propelling me toward the altar. Was I drawn to this, or was I compelled by forces I didn't understand? Standing before the altar, I fumbled for the stone. I could see them clearly now, the hollow eyes, the twisted forms. There was anger there, but also something else. Sorrow. Had they lost something? In a moment of clarity, I raised the stone high. Is this what you want? I shouted into the gathering darkness. The figures fell silent, their gazes shifting to the stone in my hands. Return it. They chorused again, but the tone held an urgency that felt different, a plea more than a demand. I took a deep breath, heart thrumming wildly. It was my only chance. Was I willing to gamble my safety for a piercing truth I still didn't understand? Or was this stone the very thing that connected me to the past, the truth that lingered in shadows at the edge of my vision? As I dropped the stone onto the altar, the world around me trembled. The glow intensified before exploding into a dazzling light, swallowing everything. I felt myself being pulled, not away, but into a strange, resonant place, a space caught between realms. And just as suddenly as the light flickered, it enveloped me, and darkness crashed in like the tide. I closed my eyes, feeling the shadows wrap around me like a shroud. I held my breath, realization dawning that this was only the beginning. Because while the immediate danger might have passed, the truth was still waiting, stirring in the depths of the unknown, leaving questions lingering in the shadows.